Hello, everybody. Just hang in there a minute.
Okay, you got me.
Yeah.
It seems to be working a little jiggy tonight.
Yeah, I was just getting off of watching a movie with my granddaughter, and we was watching Frozen, and I had to hurry up, come in here, and what we was doing, come right down to last minute. Go ahead and do your updates, Harvey, with what we got.
Okay, welcome everybody. If you're new to these calls and you're not a part of the big list lets you know when the calls are or when new documents are coming out or when new private calls are. To get on the big list, all you do is you send an email send it from your normal email address, the one you get your emails at all the time. So send an email to ROD, R-O-D, dash class, C-L-A-S-S, dash subscribe, S-U-B-S-C-R-I-B-E, at Ray Servers. It's like a guy's name, Ray, R-A-Y, S-E-R-V-E-R-S.com. So it's ROD, dash class, dash subscribe, at Ray Servers, that's plural, Ray Servers, R-A-Y-S-E-R-V-E-R-S.com, and you'll be on the big list. There's over 1,900 people on the big list, and I think these emails go all over the world anyway. A lot of people just forward on the big list to other people. So if you got it as a forward and you didn't know how to join the big list, here's how you do it. Rod-class-subscribe at rayservers.com. Oh, I was talking with Art today. Rod, he was telling me that he called up the public safety department there in North Carolina, and he said he was talking with a lady, and he asked her about the state highway patrol and if it was part of the North Carolina government, and she says that they get numerous calls every week about that. Do you think you have anything to do with that, or what?
I had to step away. Go ahead and repeat that, Harvey. I'm sorry.
I was just telling the folks that I was talking with Art today, and Art said he had called the Department of Public Safety down there in North Carolina. He's from North Carolina, and he was asking the lady, and he said she was very nice. She goes, "Oh yeah, we get a lot of calls about whether or not the state highway patrol is a part of the North Carolina government, or are they private or whatever." I mean, I just thought you'd find that interesting.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, do you think it's because of your cases in North Carolina? Do you think it's that people are curious? Do you think that there are a lot of traffic cases that people are running into and they're having doubts whether or not state highway patrol or law enforcement in general is part of the government?
Well, I think so. And this is part of what this show tonight is going to be about.
Mm-hmm.
This is what this judicial conference is going to be about this next weekend on the 25th, 26th, and 27th. Because what Carl is going to bring to the table is Title 42 suits on how to sue, and what he teaches, but it's going to dovetail in with the SF-95s that Dwight's talking about, what he wants to bring in.
The SF-95s, for people who don't know, are complaint forms. SF stands for Standard Form 95, a complaint form for either a state or even a federal complaint, correct?
Yeah, it's a tort claim. It's a complaint form where we're bringing forth a complaint against an agency or an employee of an agency, or if they're not a state agency but has the resemblance of impersonating a state agency, which is what we're dealing with. This is a means of bringing claims against them, and that's part of what we are going to get into here tonight and this next weekend. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you what, I realize the time of traveling But ladies and gentlemen, we have a major problem. Major problem. Buddy, they're asking, I get all kinds of phone calls. Well, what do we do? Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and this next weekend, where we've been broadcasting this, we are going to have a camera crew there that's going to tape this. And is it going to be like you're thinking of going out to the news and all? This is going to be a crew that's going to tape this. They're going to edit this. This is for international internet of what we're doing here, of exposing the corruption of our own system. And this is going to get into some real deep 3-day recordings of what we're talking about. But ladies and gentlemen, it would really be to your interest, those who can make it down here to the cross-country campground in North Carolina. It's in the little city called Denver, and this is not Denver, Colorado. This is Denver, North Carolina. It's a town just about 10 miles up the road from me. Just like Dallas is a city just 8 miles from me, and we're not talking about Dallas, Texas. This campground, I'm going to give you the 1-800 number for you to call if you want to if you got an RV, you got a tent to set up out here. The 1-800 number is 1-800-852-4840. Need to call to see if you get reservations. Let them know it's called Judicial Reform. Because, ladies and gentlemen, what I have been doing over the last several years, actually goes back in when Eddie Andrews and I was hooked up back in 2006, 2005, 2006, 2007, when we brought the class action lawsuit against the United States and against the federal judges and against the governors and against State Justice Institute and against the bankers. And the appellate court ruled that these were corporate appellees, not government, not state, not public officials. They listed them as corporate appellees. With what I've done here in North Carolina, people are asking, Rod, what's it take to be a private attorney general? What's it take to be a PAG? One of the biggest things it takes is backbone. It takes backbone. It takes the ability to stand up and bring a claim and go head to head with these people. With what we've done here in North Carolina, this last ruling, we come back and the Attorney General made some issues as that the governor is not an agency. The Attorney General's office is not an agency. State Trooper Kyle M. Atkins is not an agency.
What do they say they are?
Well, under the tort claim of the SF-95, of what we have been talking about, and under the Administrative Code of 150B, Article 3, you have to name the agency that they work for and name the employee. Now, the bottom line is, if Trooper Kyle M. Atkins is not part of the agency, then he's not an employee of the State Highway Patrol.
So if he's not a part of the Department of Public Safety,
then he can't be an employee out here driving a cruiser, says State Highway Patrol, with a gray uniform with a patch and a gun on his hip, impersonating an agency that he's not a part of. On the other hand, the governor cannot sit in the governor's mansion and collect and sign for federal grant money under the Highway Safety Act or any other federal grant money for Social Security, if he is not part of that agency, or he's not an agency or an employee of that agency, this is an impersonation.
What do they think they are?
Well, this is a problem. They will sit here and tell you, when they drag you in a court, that they are public officials when they're charging you. But when you put the shoe on the other foot and we bring them in, well, then they're not employees, they're private contractors, they're private individuals, they're not agencies, they don't work for the state. Well, excuse me.
Why would a governor of a state not work for the state?
Well, because if he gets sued, if the administrative court would have came back in and says, okay, Mr. Klaas, the governor is responsible for the state and any agencies underneath him, and that Kyle M. Atkins, being a state trooper, did sit here and violate the Highway Safety Act, did sit here and violate Article 11 of had to have a warrant, had to have a proper complaint. Yes, you do have a lawsuit against the state of North Carolina, and the governor is responsible. Oh, and thank you very much. We really appreciate the fact that you brought in the Highway Safety Act, as it goes back to 1968. And we really want to appreciate that you brought this up, because now the state of North Carolina has to go back in and reimburse the counties for all the money that they have embezzled. We want to thank you for bringing this to our attention. So it's easier to sit back and say they are not an agency. It's easier to sit back and say that they're not employees. It's easier to sit back and say, this way the state corporation, state of, can embezzle. And what they did is they threw the governor and the attorney general through himself and the Department of Transportation and the state highway patrol under the bus, because they went back in and stripped them of their immunities. They now can be sued in their private capacity, including the governor, because if he is not the agency and he can't sit in an administrative position in charge of and control of the state, if he's not liable for its employees or any...
Yeah, but then what function does he serve? That's idiotic. Why is he even sitting in the governor's office?
This is what we're getting into, Harvey. This is what we have been exposing across the United States, even in Washington, D.C., with these SF-95s going into my court case, is that they're coming back in and the judge is denying them. Therefore, he is stripping the court system and stripping the Attorney General's office and the prosecutor's office and D.C. of any immunities for impersonation.
So he's saying they don't have immunity.
No, they don't have it, because they're coming back in, and it's what we have been trying to preach, and what a lot of people have been trying to get across, is that these offices are vacant. They are de facto. They're not de jure. They're de facto offices. They are vacant. Nobody works here.
Yeah, but they're still arresting us and throwing us in jail and charging us with crimes.
Well, Al Capone was sending out his thugs and collecting insurance money. Were they an insurance agency?
Oh, you're right. Oh, well, but why would people with half a brain put up with this?
Well, this is part of the problem here, is that, one, we have lived with the fraud, and they have perpetrated what appears to have the resemblance of a lawful government. The problem of it is, it isn't until the recent years of internet is that we really started to uncover their lies and the deception of what they're doing as a so-called government, because as long as we have never questioned them, as long as we have never challenged them, they were. Now, a lot of people have throughout the years, and we got a lot of proof of that. The problem of it is it was very small pockets of people. We didn't have the internet 30 years ago.
Right.
And most of the people that we dealt with in the last, within the last 20 years, last 15 years, majority of these little groups out here, they were isolated. And they were the ones that basically sat on the sidelines that did not want to share any of their information. And if anybody had a different opinion than theirs, they basically threw you out of the group because they didn't want to get off their little clique. They wanted to stay within their own little confines of their narrow vision of what they were doing. And that's, because the groups that Dwight and I, when we started out back in 2002, whenever Don Matthews in Ohio was teaching this stuff, and the gentleman called Sovereign was teaching this, if anybody came in with anything different than what they were teaching, they were basically shunned, and they were basically told not to come back. You're not in here. We're teaching. This is our class. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And Joe Cosmo, he was the one that started this thing, and he was on the constitutional side. But when it started coming down into some of these arenas that we're sitting in right now on AIB radio, nobody wanted to go outside because, number one, it was too big of an arena to get into. And my brother and I have been classified by a motorcycle group that we went and talked to motorcycle members that we were too radical.
Really?
We were too radical. Now, this is a biker outfit, and my brother and I were too radical talking about what we're talking about on this show. You guys are too radical, man. You guys are really way out there. Well, the point of it is, here's the congressional records, here's the congressional proof. Well, yeah, but we're in a comfort zone here, and we don't want to rattle the cages too much. It's nice to bang the cups from time to time, but don't rattle the cages. Well, this is part of the problem that we're running into, people. I am asked time and time again, what does it take? What does it take to be a PAG? And I'm going to tell you right now, it takes backbone. I'm going to say something else, but there's ladies on here. So I'm going to sit down and say it takes backbone. It takes the ability to stand up and go head to head with the system, no matter what the cost, no matter what the price. Well, what do you mean? How much money are you talking? I'm sitting here talking. Are you willing to have a target put on your back? Are you willing to face the possibility of an execution by a sniper or by one of these government agencies running you off the road over an embankment? Are you willing to die for what you're doing? What's it take to be a PAG? The gentleman, Sovereign, when I got into this, he looked at me and says, Rod, do you understand what you're getting involved in? I says, yeah. He says, no. Do you understand? Are you asking me, do I understand that I could be executed? I most certainly do understand that I could be executed. He says, okay, as long as you understand that, I wanted to make sure that you had that understanding. You could be executed. Ladies and gentlemen, what's it take to be a PAG? I have opened up doors that nobody has talked about or have mentioned on the administrative side of getting the rulings that I've gotten. I've gotten 7 rulings. I'm waiting for somebody to walk in behind me and start bringing suits in, and then the next, and the next, and the next. This is what it's going to take for us to get our system back. It's okay to go out and put in a lot of FOIA information about asking, well, are they part of the state? And all this stuff is important information. Don't get me wrong. It's important information. What is important is that we start bringing lawsuits against them. We start charging them. This is what this Judicial Conference is going to be about on the 25th, 26th, and 27th. About bringing Title 42 suits. About bringing claims. About processing it, going after these people. You can't get ahead by sitting in a house in front of the couch and hope that someone does it for you. It's going to take us. And if anything that we're hearing about them bringing foreigners in here, and we already know under 49 Stat 3097, Treaty Series 881, Conventions and Duties and Rights of the State, the Pan-Am Agreement. They are already talking about building the highway that's already in the planning stages of them knocking out North America, knocking out the United States, and opening this thing up under a Pan-Am Agreement that we're no longer going to be the United States, but we're going to be an open run from South America all the way up to Canada. These have already been in the stages since 1933, ladies and gentlemen. We've already heard about them trying to build a highway. They've already, up here in part of North Carolina, the county commissioners have already passed a state of an emergency proposal that at any given time they could kick your doors in, disarm you, confiscate your property under emergency. And this means your property is your home, your automobile, everything you own, and remove you with no compensation because it is an emergency. Ladies and gentlemen, this comes under that Trading with the Enemy Act. This isn't how this is supposed to work. They're not supposed to be taking things. What's it take to be a private attorney general? Backbone. Being able to go head to head and stand up and bring claims and bring charges in the name of the people against these people.
All right, Rod, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Honestly, if you're going to do that within their system, how effective would a lawsuit that you would bring against them actually turn out to be?
1 or 2 people, they're going to start blowing off. But once this thing starts, and it goes right back in what Cornforth said, 80,000 people changed prohibition.
Right.
155,000 people back during the Iraq War. The congressman, I believe it was out of Illinois, made the comment about our military and compared them to the North Vietnamese and to Russia and to the Gestapo. 135,000 phone calls, emails went to his office, and this man apologized on open TV. Ladies and gentlemen, It's going to take the numbers. Because you got to remember something, and I'm going to tell you right now, this Thomas Massey out of Kentucky, under House Bill 5016, I want you to call his office because he, as one congressman, has put a bill to defund the District of Columbia because of the gun ban of this Heller versus the District of Columbia gun case, as that they're not following the Supreme Court, the ruling that that law was unconstitutional. So if they're not going to follow the law, this congressman is asking for District of Columbia to be defunded with federal regulations and federal money until they come in compliance with the law. Now, if the email is right, this has already been passed by the House to defund the District of Columbia. It has to go through the Senate.
That's interesting.
Now, what was your question, Harvey?
My question was, how do we think... I know. But you got to... I don't know how the Senate would ever let this get passed.
Again, it goes back to the people. That's what I'm sitting here saying. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes us. It takes we the people. Now, the thing of it is, some people sit down and say, Rod, you lost every one of your cases. You didn't get any charges. What I got them to admit is what they are, non-existence. Because what they're doing, ladies and gentlemen, you and I have walked into these courts. We have stated that we are not that all-capital name. That's not us. We're not that corporation. We're not that agency. It's not what the Attorney General is doing here in North Carolina, is coming in and saying that the governor's office is not that agency. The police department is not that agency. The tax department is not that agency. The highway patrol, DOT, the jail, the sheriff, the court system, they're not that agency. Aren't they playing this straw man with us? These people know the game. They know the game on this. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to take us. Part of what we're trying to do, and what this last week's interview was with Google Hangout and BBS, was to bring international attention, is that there are people out here that's supposed to be internationally trying to get a tribunal up for accountability. The more of us that can step forward and the more of us that can start proving this stuff and start bringing claims, because, ladies and gentlemen, these people do live by us somewhere, someplace. They do live in our neighborhood. They do live in our county. They are not beaming in and out like Mixoplex on Superman that comes in from the fourth or fifth dimension, that pops in and pops out. These people do live among us. They have to buy food. They got to buy clothes. They have to shop. They have to eat like the rest of us. And the more people that will start showing being disgruntled by bringing claims against them, bringing lawsuits against them for misconduct, official abuse, they're not going to be wanting to walk into these courtrooms, because the thing of it is, I've got a gentleman that I've been working with right now up in Ohio. His attorney that he has that is working with him, and this attorney seems to be 3/4 of way of being honest, not 100%, but 3/4, which is coming up the ranks. sat down and told my buddy, he says, you realize what you're doing to these banker attorneys, don't you? He says, well, yeah. He says, no, do you really understand what you're doing? He said, well, explain. The lawyer started to explain to him, because you're suing them, and you brought a complaint, and you're suing them in their official capacity, but in their private capacity, you are now going after the insurance company. Because now the insurance company is starting to look at them. Even though you did not mention the insurance company, the fact that their name is being brought into a lawsuit, and if they lose their insurance company. They lose their bond. They lose their ability to function. This means that if they were to lose it in Ohio, they can't go to Kentucky or California because there's going to be a flag on them. They're going to lose their bond. They can't get employment. That's the same thing when you go after a police officer. You start bringing charges against them for abuse, misconduct, armed assault. You start bringing claims against them, the city, the county will start losing its insurance side of this thing because they're not going to be insured. This means they're going to have to be self-insured. There's a lot to this, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot bigger picture here. I have tried to sit back and show you the avenues of the education side of this, the legislative side of this, the tort claim side of this, how to go after the administrative side of this, no matter what they rule. One of our listeners just got a filing back from the Supreme Court of the United States stating that they will not interfere with any of this, and they have permission to go to the federal court of their choice and bring a federal tort claim. The Supreme Court of the United States gave them the authority to go bring a federal tort claim. Now, you can't get much better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have been trying to get you to do. Everybody's asking, what's it take? What's it take? A lot of you have the education. A lot of you are having the knowledge. You need to put your knowledge to work. You need to start putting it on a piece of paper, and you need to start running them into court. All of you that has those SF-95s that you've done, each and every one of you have got a federal tort claim. Because the moment the judge denied your paperwork, whether it was Kessler or whether it was Roberts, the moment they denied, the moment they did not file it into the docket sheet and make it public record, they committed a crime. This is obstruction of justice. They now can have charges brought against them. For me to do it right now, it would be considered a collateral attack. And they won't allow me to do a collateral attack as long as I have a case pending. On the other hand, each and every one of you that has had your paperwork denied after reporting a crime, this is no longer a collateral attack. You now have a tort claim for you now to bring against them and do accountability and start charging them for corruption. This is the door that we've opened up. This is the avenue that we've opened up. It's for you all to start bringing your claim. Bring it into a court of claims. Bring it into a chancery court. If we can find the chancery court. I still haven't got the address for the one in Pennsylvania. But you have the proof that they have not. And the fact that the judge denied your paperwork and sent it back to you, it's denied after you reported a crime, That's judicial corruption. This goes back and violates the fact that the Clerk of Court was required to file your paperwork. It isn't up to the Clerk of Court to make a legal determination to file or not to file your paperwork. It's not their job. We're working on paperwork right now on this. Explain to the people what has transpired with this case in D.C. Well, we got 3 different timestamps, Harvey.
The 3 different timestamps on the filing that they rejected, which was your pretrial statement. Here's the deal, folks. What they did is the new judge, the chief judge, rejected him being able to file the pretrial statement because it was filed after the judge had set his own rules that superseded Kessler's. But on the page, and it's been in the big lists before, the page shows the front page of the document being logged into the mailroom on June 23rd. It then shows at the top of the document where Judge Roberts denied the filing because it didn't comply, and he signed it, and he dated it. Guess what the date was? A national holiday, July 4th. No judge in their right mind was working on July 4th in Washington, D.C. Now, you go back down to the bottom of the page, over to the left, and you'll see that the filing itself was not officially clocked into the clerk's office. Remember, it got to the mailroom on the June 23rd. It was not officially clocked into the clerk's office until July 7th. So this judge sometime was able to turn the hands of time back after it had been filed in on July the 7th and sign it on July the 4th. You don't think there's something screwy? You don't think there's a friggin' and the riggin' going on in D.C.? We have the document, and it was sent out to the big list, either last list or in this list. I can't remember which, but I'll try and post it again if I can find it, and I'll put it on the message board. Just take a look at it. It's whacked, isn't it, Rod?
Yes, it is. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're saying. We are catching D.C. in so much corruption. So much corruption. We're catching them on all this. Now, let's get back to Thomas Massey here a minute, the Kentucky representative. This gentleman, because he is going after the District of Columbia's gun ban, we also need to address not just the Heller versus D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a court opinion. We also need to get him to address the National Firearms Act of 1934, the Gun Control Act of 1968, and the Firearms Owner Protection Act of 1998, of the definition of the word firearm being what we have said: a sawed-off shotgun, fully automatic machine gun, a silencer, sawed-off rifle, and the definition of the word person being a manufacturer, being a dealer, an importer, a collector, a pawnbroker, a gunsmith, not you and I. This is a lot bigger picture than they want to put on. I'm thankful that he's going after it, because technically what he's doing is that with Heller versus the District of Columbia on this gun ban, it was not that you have to keep your gun inside your house. It's like you're allowed to have it anywhere, but the court system is twisting it, and the federal court is overruling Supreme Court decisions, and they're overruling legislation. You people that are in Kentucky, and he is your rep, I already put a call into his office in D.C. to see if I could talk to him, because we have an ongoing case in D.C. And if what we're reading in the email is true, that this was passed by the House and it has to go to the Senate, ladies and gentlemen, this could open up a whole new can, because if they will go in and defund DC, this is what happened in 2003 and 2004 in Ohio. Ohio got caught not following the rules. So for 6 months between 2003 and 2004, Ohio's federal funding was cut off. Now, what does that mean? It meant that the state prisons and the county prisons, part of them were shut down for 6 months, and they had to let prisoners out because they didn't have the money to keep them in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're telling you. It's about the money. It takes us to start exposing this. It takes us to start hammering them on this. If Thomas Massey is going after D.C. under this H.R. 5016, this is a very positive step of what is going to expose what's going on in D.C. It takes us to address this issue, ladies and gentlemen. It takes us to sit down to push this. And if we don't, we'll never know. I have had, since I've got onto this thing with D.C., I've had several conversations with several different people about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. If I would have listened to my wife, I would have been sitting in jail. If I have listened to some other people that says, Rod, stop the presses. Stop what you're doing. Let's go over here and go do this, I would have been sitting in jail. I am where I am at and out because of my gut instinct of what we're doing. Because of me going by my gut on this and knowing what I know to come back and push. Because had I had listened to my wife of letting AJ represent me, because after all, he is an attorney, he is trained in the law. Rod, you need to listen to him. You need to do what he tells you. I'd have been sitting in jail. I am where I am because of my knowledge, my understanding, and my gut instinct of knowing what they're doing and reading their paperwork and seeing what they read in their paperwork, what they wrote, and then coming back in and countering their paperwork. It takes time to learn this. I didn't learn this stuff overnight. But ladies and gentlemen, this next weekend is we're going to get into Title 42 suits. Wife's going to get into SF-95. She's going to get into the corporation side of this thing. And the biggest problem that we run into, and I catch myself from time to time doing it, it's out of habit because it is how we were raised. Because majority of us was born in the system the way it is, and we was never taught anything different. I had a chance to talk to a lady up here at Ingalls parking lot. She looked at my excursion, and she asked my brother, "You guys caught anybody lately?" My brother started to explain to her that we go after the corruption of the public office. And she looked at him. And we walked over and we started talking. And the lady was 64. I said, the problem of it is that we have been taught this is a government. They hold elections. We have been taught that these are public offices because if you go downtown, that's what it's called, a public office. We have been taught all the proper things. But we also will sit here and say in one breath, that's not a government, it is a corporation. The problem of it is, when you say that, you really don't believe it enough that it sticks with you that this is a corporation, because it is getting harder and harder with what we're pulling up out of congressional records that we're dealing with a corporation, that we're dealing with these offices been turned over to the UN, that we're getting court filings back that they're not agencies, they're not employees, they're private individuals. It's getting harder and harder and harder. When you get a set of blue lights come in behind you, and you know this is not a cop. This is not law enforcement. This is nothing more than a hood that is out here collecting revenue for a private corporation that is embezzling out of your birth certificate account, that is not paying off any public debt, that is putting it into their private CAFR account, and they're railroading you, and you walk into that court, and we have proven that there is no criminal jurisdiction, because when we got into North Carolina, I got into several other state rules of criminal procedure, got into the legislative side of this thing, and it says how they have venue, but when you get down to the jurisdiction, it says reserved for future codification. And when you get into Title 28 and you start getting down into 1330 and you start going all the way down to the end, and the only thing it says is civil for jurisdiction, and you cannot find a section that says criminal jurisdiction, because the 1300s is civil jurisdiction and the 1400s are venue. There is no criminal jurisdiction. It's getting harder and harder to walk in, to look at these people, and want to take the railroading off of them. That's like Chief Justice Rehnquist said, you volunteer. Ladies and gentlemen, this ain't volunteering. This is kidnapping. This is extortion. This is abuse. And until we stand up and say no more and start bringing suits against them, again, we're bringing it into one of their courts. Yes, we are. We don't have a court of our own at this point. But the point is, the more of us that starts bringing the claim in and start bringing the charges, they're going to start looking at this, and they're going to start saying, we don't want to play with those people, which means us. They will go back and play with those who will hire lawyers and those who don't know any better. But when we, us, people of like minds, start bringing massive claims against them, they're not going to keep playing with us. They're going to leave us alone. Or we're going to have a target on our back, in which case they're going to leave us alone anyhow, because now they're going to bury us. I'm not trying to come in with doom and gloom on this show, but I am coming in with the truth of the matter, that it's going to take us to start solving this problem. We have opened up the doors through the administrative procedures of bringing claims against them, where we are proven they are not who they say they are. These SF-95s, they're not coming back in, they're not answering, or if they do, they're saying they're not going to get involved in it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what we want to hear. because they're stripping them of their immunities. They're giving you and I an avenue to go back and play with. They're giving us an avenue to go back and start suing them. It's going to take us to go do this. If we can get the international side involved, that's all that much better. But I am not relying on somebody else to come in. We have to rely on ourselves. This is like going out to a restaurant. You can walk into a restaurant, but if you choose not to eat and you're starving, that's your fault. If we're tired of the railroading, we're tired of what they're doing to us, it takes us to come in to start pushing back on these people. But this is what this judicial conference is going to be about. It's about education, about knowledge. This is why all this paperwork has been handed out to you people. It's so you can have a good floor mat of what we're looking at. Because I have, and Harvey and I are working on a document right now on what we're doing that deals with the Clerk of Court side of this thing. And there is plenty of case law out here that we have come across that deals with the Clerk of Court tampering with your file. There is a massive amount of numbers of federal statutes that's being violated here.
I just put that the Judge Roberts CF up on the board for people to link. They can go and see the 3 dates on there and try and shake their head and figure it out. I can't.
Because, see, the thing of it is, ladies and gentlemen, according to federal regulations on this stuff, under Title 26, and let me get it pulled up here. I've had to shut my computer down for a little bit and reboot it. Trying to get stuff back up. But under Title 26, it gets in and it explains that if you're dealing with an IRS, the moment you put it in the mail, it was paid and it was received that day. It was paid and received that day. All right, Title 26, 7502. Timely mailed treated as timely filed in payment. Date of delivery. If any return, claim, statement, or other documents required to be filed, or any payment required to be made within a prescribed period or on or before a specific date under authority of any provisions of the Internal Revenue Law is, after such period or such date, delivered by U.S. mail to the agency, officer, or office with which such return, claim, statement, or other document is required to be filed, or to which such payment is required to be made, the date of the United States postmark stamp on the cover in which such return, claim, statement, or other documents or payment is mailed shall be deemed to be the date of delivery or the date of payment as the case may be.
Oh, you gotta love that. What was that? What was that site again? What were the numbers on it?
Title 26 under 7502.
Title 26 is the IRS code, right?
Yes, it is.
Now, will that count for everything in government?
Yes. So when when I go down to the post office and I file my paperwork and I put it in on the 18th of June to be there by the 23rd of June for Kessler, technically that paperwork was filed on the 18th. because that's when it was stamped and received by the post office, and the fact that I sent it out by certified receipt mail, that's the true date. The fact that Judge Roberts cut an order on the 20th doesn't mean squat, because my mailing was in before he cut an order.
But yours was technically in on the 18th, and
yes.
It did get there by the 23rd, which is what Kessler's deadline date originally was.
Exactly.
And then he's rejecting your pretrial statement because his superseded hers, but you and the general public were never informed that he wrote the freaking order on June 20th.
That's right, because I did not get a copy of that order until July 11th, which was not sent out till July 7th.
Yeah, they play fair, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're getting into under that Title 26, Section F, treatment of private delivery service in general. Any reference in this section to the United States mail shall be treated as included a reference to any designated delivery service, and any reference in this section to the postmark of the United States Post Service shall be treated as included as reference to any date recorded or marked or as described in paragraph 2C by any designated delivery service. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I'm sitting here saying. They cannot refuse service on this. They cannot refuse mailing on this.
So technically, they really can't. Roberts can't technically refuse your pretrial statement.
No, because it was filed in before he cut an order.
That's correct. You filed yours in with the day you mailed it, June 18th, and he cut his order on June 20th.
Yes. All right. Federal case law. I got some of this in the paper that Harvey and I are working on. It is a settled law that delivery of a pleading to a proper official is sufficient to constitute filing thereof. United States versus Lombardo. 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 Militan versus United States and Greenson versus Sherman. It was held that a pleading delivered to a deputy clerk at his home at night was therefore filed. So even
that's after business hours. That's after business hours. His home at night.
Even if you send it to his home address, because he is the responsible person for filing, if he got it at his home, it is considered filed. The duty of the clerk is to make his record correctly representing proceedings and the case. Failure to file documents presented and reflecting the document on the docket sheet is a failure to perform a duties of the Clerk of Courts. Ministerial? Yes, that's the word. Duty of the Clerk of Courts. We've got case laws up the yin-yang that we're putting in. We're also coming back in, and we are pointing out under federal rules on this, under federal statutes, Title 18, 2071, concealment, removal, and mutilation generally. Whoever willfully and unlawfully conceals, removes, mutilates, obliterates, or destroys, or attempts to do so, or with intent to do so, take and carry away any record, proceedings, maps, books, papers, documents, or other things filed or deposited with any clerk or officer of any court of the United States or in any public office or with any judicial or public officer of the United States shall be fined under this title or in prison not more than 3 years or both. Title 18, 2076, Clerk of the United States District Court. Title 18, 2076, whoever, being a clerk of a district court of the United States, willfully refuses or neglects to make or forward any report, certification, statement, or documents as required by law shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than a year or both. Ladies and gentlemen, Title 18, 285, taking or using paper relating to a claim. Whoever without authority takes and carry away of the place where it was filed, deposited, or kept by authority of the United States any certification, affidavit, deposition, statement of fact, power of attorney, receipt, voucher, assignment, or other documents, record, files, or paperwork prepared, fitted, or intended to be used or present to precede the payment of money from or by the United States or any officer, employee, or agent thereof, or the following or payment of whole or any part of any claim, account, or demand against the United States, whether the same has or has not already been used or presented, and whether such claim accorded or demanded, or any part thereof, has or has not already been allowed or paid, or whoever presents, use, or attempts to use any such document, record, files, or papers, so taken and carried away to precede the payment of any money from or by the United States or any officer, employee, or agent thereof, or the allegation or payment of the whole or any part of any claim, account, or demand against the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 5 years or both. When they start tampering with paperwork, there's jail time here. Now, one of the things that came out of this North Carolina case, and Art brought it up, is that the administrative court said, well, you brought criminal charges against these parties. Well, I cannot help that your federal statutes or your state statutes were designed with criminal charges involved. These are your administrative laws. These are your administrative legislation. Every one of them has criminal intent. So the fact that we went back in and we used the very statutes against them on this, the administrative court said, you brought criminal charges. Well, I can't help you people commit crimes. This is what they did. We also got into the penal codes into this thing. Offenses against public administration. Official oppression. A public servant acting under color of his office or employment commits an offense if he intentionally subject another to mistreatment or to arrest, detention, seizures, searches, deposition, assignment, or liens that he knows is unlawful, intentionally denies or impedes another in the exercise or enjoyment of any right, privileges, power, or immunity, knowing his conduct is unlawful. Pennsylvania Penal Code, abuse of office. A person acting or purporting to act in an official capacity or taking advantage of such actual or purported capacity commits a misdemeanor of a second degree if, knowingly that his conduct is illegal, he subject another to arrest, detainment, search, seizure. What I just read here, this is another penal code. This comes out of Pennsylvania. What we're talking about, the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Under the banking side of this, under Federal Rules of Banking Procedure, Rule 5005, filing and transmitting of paperwork. It shows that it has to be filed. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 79, record keeper by the Clerk of Court. Civil docket in general, the clerk must keep a record known as a civil docket in the form and manner prescribed by the Director of the Administrative Office of the United States Courts. This is the office that I was telling you about, Harvey, Administrative Office of the United States Courts. With the approval of the Judicial Conference of the United States, the clerk must enter each civil action in the docket. Action must be assigned file numbers, which must be noted in the docket where the first entry of the action is made.
Nice job finding that.
Yep.
And nice job finding the agency. Repeat the name of that agency again, or whatever the thing it was called.
It's the Administrative Office of the United States Court.
Oh, and that's at 333 Constitution Avenue?
That's one of them, yeah.
What?
This is the one that we file complaints with on judges and prosecutors and clerk of courts.
Well, then they should be on your filing, this latest filing that we're working on, they should also get a copy of your filing, shouldn't they?
Yes.
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 Yes. And that would look really good that you serve them on the bottom of your proof of service. That'll give Judge Roberts a little bit of a woo, you know?
Yes. Okay, now, what also has is under Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, Rule 55, record. The clerk of the district court must keep records of criminal proceedings in the form of prescribed by the Director of the Administrative Office of the United States Court. The clerk must enter in the record every court order or judgment and the date of entry. Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, Rule 56, when court is open. And generally, the district court is considered always open for any filing and for issuing and returning process, making a motion or entering an order. Waiver of sovereignty immunity by the United States. Yes, you heard me right, ladies and gentlemen. Waiver of sovereign immunity by the United States. Title 28, 2674. Liability of the United States. The United States shall be liable respecting the provision of this title relating to tort claims in the same manner and to the same extent as private individuals under like circumstances, but shall not be liable for interest prior of judgment or for punitive damages. Title 15, Section 1122, liability of the United States and instrumentalities and officials thereof. Waiver of sovereign immunity by the United States. Title 15, Section 1122, waiver of sovereign immunity by the United States. The United States, all agencies and instrumentalities thereof, and all individuals, firms, corporations, other persons acting for the United States, and with the authorization and consent of the United States shall not be immune from suits in federal or state court by any person, including any governmentality or non-governmentality entity, for any violations under this chapter.
And Rod, are those sites in this document we're working on?
Yes.
I think they're going to have to be in bold. You know? Maybe even in red.
Title?
Yeah.
12,202 state immunity. A state is not being immune under the 11th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States for an action in federal or state court of competent jurisdiction for a violation of this chapter, and any actions against the state for a violation of the requirement of this chapter. Remedy includes remedy both in law and equity, are available for such violations to the same extent as such remedies are available for violations and an action against any public or private entity other than a state. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I am trying to beat into your head, that when they come back and say that he is not an agency, he's not the state, they have put him out to dry.
That's excellent.
They have put these people out to dry. They put them out to be sued in their private capacity. You can't sue a piece of dirt, but you can sue the dirtbag that's in the office.
That's a good line.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have been busting my butt trying to open this thing up of what we're sitting on for information. You people want remedy? I'm laying it out for you. I am telling you where the laws are at. Harvey and I are working on this document.
Hey, Rod, we got to find the person who is the head of that particular section of 333 Constitution Ave that you mentioned earlier before. Okay? Yeah, so we'll make sure that he or she, God love them, is going to get a copy of your filing, the one that you're talking all of these sites are going to be in.
Yep.
Because, I mean, it sounds like some way to really put the hammer down on them.
Well, it is. And this is what I'm sitting here telling you people that have put your SF-95s into my federal claims. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys are sitting on avenues here to make money.
That's right.
You guys are sitting on avenues. You've got to spend a little money to make some money. But you've got a tendency to make more than you're going to be putting out. Because once they start getting hammered, the insurance company, the bond company is going to drop them like a hot potato, because once they start hitting the insurance and the insurance has to be paid off, these people are going to have their doors knocked on, and the insurance company is going to want their bond money back and their money reimbursed, and these people can't hold public office no more.
And they can be sued in their private capacity, and I think probably you might be able to take everything they have or ever will have.
That's exactly right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have been working on all these years out here for you guys. This is what we have been hammering on. Hold on, let me see who guest 69 is. That may be Carl. Hold on. Guest 69, go ahead.
Hello, Rod. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Rod. This is April. I'm calling from New Jersey, and I'm glad I listened tonight because I'm in the process. Because what I did was I dropped child support charges and I forgave the debt, and they don't want it to stop. They want to keep it going. They're sending out people acting like they're the workers, but they're not. They're acting like they're supervisors, but they're not. They're working in different departments. They tampering with paperwork. They even doing the retaliation because I filed a complaint in the federal with the federal attorney general, and they sent CPS to my house to take my kids. I mean, it's just going on and on. And these people are really driving me nuts. And I've been listening to you, and I was talking to somebody, but now I understand. Now I'm beginning to understand because I just didn't want to do the paperwork. I was tired. I mean, this is how drained this stuff was making me. I was so tired. I'm like, Rod, know all of this stuff. Why don't we just chop their heads off and be done with them? You know, I'm trying to find an easier way out. There is no easier way. You have to learn this stuff because in order to take these people down, I recognize that. You have to really learn it. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring these people into court. That's what I want to do now because I did the complaint, and but on the paperwork, the Attorney General said that you know, I just did a complaint, and they are aware of it. So we have a hearing on the 29th, and I'm trying to figure out how can we have a hearing if I drop the charges and forgave the debt.
Well, this is the whole thing. This is why we've got to come back in and hammer on them. We've got to bring in the Trade with the Enemy Act. We've got to bring in the bankruptcy. We've got to bring in that they are not holding a public office. They're not doing their job right.
I did all of that. I sent them letters. I sent them the Minnesota Constitution stating that the child support was deemed unconstitutional. I sent them so much paperwork to the point that it's exhausting me. You know, and I'm not going to give up though. I'm going to stand my ground. So they're doing everything they have to do because I have a disabled son. They wouldn't help me with the lights, so they turned the lights off, and they sent the CPS people here to take my son. Okay? And CPS, I explained to them what was going on, so they knew that there was a retaliation act, you know. But, yes, they try to make me apply for cash assistance. I don't want cash assistance. You know,
what you need to do, April, is get people that's in the same boat you are, get a group together and working with people and start bringing not a class action lawsuit, but individual lawsuits against the same agency and against the same people and start suing them massively.
These people are scared, though. They're scared. They don't want to have no dealings with it. They're scared. I mean, the people they're getting on my nerves. I mean, because they see what's going on, and I've been telling a lot of people, you know, about the stuff that I've been doing, and the first thing they holler is, oh, you're going to jail. Oh, why are you bothering that? You better leave that alone. You can't beat the government. You know, they're getting on my nerves. Well, because they see what's going on, and nobody want to stand up.
Well, I understand, and I don't want to get into into your whole claim here tonight. I understand because I'm running into problem with some of the people that I'm dealing with. Well, you know, you can't beat the system. You know, with your mentality, when they come knocking on your door, then you tell them that when they handcuff you.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, we are making a difference.
I just want to make sure I'm on the right track because now I'm looking to bring a lawsuit against this child support worker because she's just not getting it. She got the letters. They wouldn't respond. I gave them a certain amount of time to respond. They wouldn't respond. Then we got a call from the Attorney General in the capital where I'm at, and they wanted my children's father's address. They didn't want to talk to me. They just wanted to talk to him.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. There is another caller on here. I see that you're on a computer under guest 69.
Yeah.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 down from you. It's HENNALADY, Hen Lady. She's asking you to contact her. You two share some emails back and forth, and she's willing to sit down and help you.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're talking about. I've done the research. Harvey has got the paperwork. This thing is probably 14 pages, I believe.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
About 14 pages long. All right. The problem of it is that the first page, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages out of the 10, or 4.5 pages out of the 14, is my stuff. The rest of it's case law. The rest of it is federal statutes and rules.
That's great.
The other part of it is penal codes and falsification. Part of it is their own federal rules that they're supposed to be following.
You gotta love it, Rod. I tell you what, Dottie just posted a link about 10 minutes ago to the administrative office there at the U.S. court.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna look on that, and we'll get a name or something like that. Dottie, thanks for doing that. Appreciate it.
But, ladies and gentlemen, we are handing you out the information, where to go file, who to go complain to. We're handing it out to you. And like I said, you guys that did these FF95s, thanks, but, go finish it. Go bring your claim. You want to stop the corruption? We have to start bringing claims against these people. And we start nailing them with 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 claims against the judge for misconduct, against the prosecutor for misconduct, against the public defender's office for misrepresentation, misconduct, the clerk of court for not filing your paperwork. It isn't up to them to make law and to practice law. It's their job to keep a record. It isn't up to the judge to determine what he wants on the record because he's covering up for corruption on their side of the fence. He is to be neutral. He is in violation of the judicial rules of canon. Right now, I got someone that we're not going to mention who, but we got someone right now that is bringing charges against 3 federal agencies for stupidity and bringing a Title 42 lawsuit against them.
For stupidity?
For stupidity.
Well, you can't cure stupid, I don't think, but maybe you can get a claim against them.
Because what I'm saying is, by stupidity, is that they went in and they busted a husband and wife in a business and had no evidence to bust them, and they're busting them anyhow. For stupidity. I just got off a phone call here earlier today, and I get a chance. I'm going to bring the lady in right now. What has happened is she's just got involved in a court case, and she is in fear of her daughter's life because her daughter has already been threatened by the public officials of tying her up and killing her.
Huh?
So she is going to go through, do what she needs to do, then she's going to come out and report it. But what she has presented to me is that she's been able to get into certain court filings and found out that they are putting loans in our names without our knowledge. They are taking old case law and changing the name and putting it into a court record and setting it in court, so when the time comes, they're going to have a court case ready to snag us under a false pretense. And she's got proof of this. She, if I'm saying it right, she has pulled information where public officials' identities are being mixed in with prisoners in another state, showing that these public officials are serving jail time right now while they're holding public office.
This is wacky, Rod.
This is why our computers are being hacked. This is why all of our information is being hacked. And I will get your district conference out to you. I just got down to your hard drive. But she, by accident, the people sent her a file that she was never supposed to have got, showed her, and talked about what they did, so she got in, did the research. And she is showing that her daughter had multiple homes in her name that are being foreclosed on, and they don't even belong to her.
Jeez. That's how corrupt this whole system is, Rod.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly how corrupt it is. Is that they're going back in and they are hacking our information. She's got grandchildren that has properties in their name, and they're not even of legal age to buy, but they've got property stuck in their names.
But who controls the property? If they're in the kids' names, are these other people that put them in the kids' names? Are they controlling the property, or what are they doing with it?
Yeah, they're controlling the property. They're putting it in someone else's name to keep their name off of it.
And yet they're either living in the property or then buying and selling the property?
Yeah, I got to get more detail off with her right now. I'm gonna get a chance. I'm gonna get her on, let her explain some of this. But right now, her daughter just got a death threat today.
What you're saying though, I heard about 3 months ago something very similar to this. So this is not taking me by surprise, but I didn't know that you knew someone that could come on and talk about it. This is good.
Yes, I got somebody who could come in and lay it out. But right now, they had SWAT, had the whole block cornered off because someone stole the identity of one of her grandchildren, put a false call into the police department and said the entire family is tied up and they're going to kill each and every one of them, and the SWAT hit the house. And the one that they supposedly made the 911 call was not capable of making the phone call.
And they did this just to screw with these people?
Yep, they just did it today.
Really? Good.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I'm telling you. Us being hacked by our government is not accidental. We are being set up where they are profiling us with a file that at any given time they could drop the hammer on us for a murder or embezzlement or anything else out of somebody else's record, and is sitting in the judge's chamber waiting for the hammer to drop.
And does that remind you of your case in North Carolina with that kid who was up on the porn charges?
Yep. This is what we are up against. And for you people to sit back and think, well, it ain't going to happen. This lady didn't think it would happen, and she found out the hard way. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time that we quit playing with these people. I have been told by several people, Rod, don't go after the judges. You don't want to upset them. It is the judges that bang the gavel and put the noose around your neck. The prosecutor and your lawyer are there to assist him. We need to start bringing suits, lawsuits. We need to start charging for judicial misconduct. We need to start hammering them for procedural violations. They only have immunity if we allow them. We start bringing claims against them, and the administrative court waives the immunity, waives that we're not going to get involved, send it off to the Committee of Judiciary, send it off to the administrative court, send it off to the Bar Association, send it off to the government, start sending it off to these agencies, and the moment they start saying we're not going to get involved, they waive their immunity. They're no longer part of the system. This is that peace that we've been hunting for. You want these people to be dead silent. When you bring a claim, you want them to go dead silent. Just what you want. Because the moment they go dead silent under the tort claim, they've waived their immunity. If they send you a certified letter or if they send you a document back, well, they're not part of the administration, they waive their immunity. They say they're not part of the state. You're not suing the state now, you're suing them. This is what we're sitting on here in North Carolina. Now, the question come up, does this apply to every state? Yes, it does. It applies to every single state. The rulings that I got here go across the board because it's administrative. We're opening up the doors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm waiting for the floodgate. I'm waiting for people to run in behind me and start nailing them. I'm blazing the trail. Start taking them down. All I can do is open it up, and I have. And I opened it up well. We know we're not dealing with agencies. We know we're dealing with corporations.
Dealing with crooks.
They are only a government in order to obtain rights into your birth certificate account. They're only a government agency in order to get into the grant money and federal money on our side of the fence. That's the only reason why they're a government, is to embezzle. That Trading with the Enemy Act is the biggest thing that we have, and if you go back, for you new people, if you will go back and read the 1917 Trading with the Enemy Act, go back and read this very slowly. It lays out the fact that they do not own our property. They are merely supposed to use it as collateral in order for them to maintain a war effort, but that war effort under the Constitution, under Article 1, Section 8, I think it's like Clause 13, 14, they can only have a war for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, they got to call it off unless they renew it. But the point being of it is, anything that they are using as collateral has to go to the military. It cannot go into their retirement fund under the CUSIP account or under the CAFR account. They're embezzling. And that's the only reason why they are a public office under the government is so they can embezzle. But it's got to take us to open this thing up. It's got to take us to lay this thing out and to expose it.
Quite a racket.
Yes, it is. But ladies and gentlemen, it's got to take us. Like I said, this Judicial Conference here that we're going to have this next weekend, and those that are new on the line, just come in. It's at Cross Country Campground. It's here in North Carolina in a city called Denver. The phone number is 1-800-852-4840. The 1-800 number is 1-800-852-4840. We are supposed to have a camera crew that's going to be coming in and recording this live for 3 days. This is going to be put on international. I'm not sure when, but it's going to be made international. It's going to be made out on the internet. But ladies and gentlemen, this thing is being recorded. It's being recorded because of what we're teaching for education.
Hey, Rod, I should probably give out Carl's email address to pre-register or whatever.
Yeah. Let me. Well.
Yeah, I can do it. I know what it is.
If you've got it, go ahead and put it up, because I'm having a problem with my email, because when Dwight and I are both on Gmail, and when he's on, I'm locked off.
Oh, okay. Well, I can give Carl's email address out on the phone now, and then I'll put it up on the board.
Okay.
The 800 number that Rod just gave you is just the number to the campground. They're not going to know, oh, you want to register? Whatever, But to pre-register or let us know how many people are going to be there. And remember, it's summertime and people are traveling and vacationing. The campground may get filled up, hard to say. Anyway, here's the email address for Carl Weston. It's private general, all one word, private general at Hughes.net. Hughes is HUGHES.net. So private general at Hughes.net. And put in the subject line, Judicial Reform meeting, whatever, blah, 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 blah. He'll send you information. The big list has a PDF within it that tells you all about the Judicial Reform meeting and, how much it is, where it is. I don't believe there's any more spaces to be had by reservation, so it'll be catch as catch can if you're going to come with an RV or you want to camp. But 6 miles down the road in Lincolnton, there are hotels and motels. Right, Rod?
Yeah, about 6-8 miles up the road in Mooresville, there's also hotels and motels.
Okay, good. So, like, right within the general area, there will be a place to stay if you don't want to camp or you don't have an RV. So, anyway, but, yeah, send Carl an email, let him know, because, who knows how many people are going to show up for this thing. So his email address is privategeneral at Hughes, HUGHES.net. Privategeneral at Hughes.net. Put in judicial reform meeting, and just let them know.
But, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that we're putting on. Like I said, we're going to get into Title 42 stuff. We're going to get into the federal tort claim information. We're going to walk you through the congressional records of what we're talking about, of exposing this thing. A lot of people out here may have a lot of good knowledge, but when you start asking them, where's it at? They can't tell you. And without knowing where it's at, it doesn't do you a bit of good. The court system is pushing this. Now that we're pushing back, it's creating a major problem with them. And we want to create problems for them. Because these people took a job under good behavior. And right now their behavior is anything but good. Like I said, the Clerk of Court is tampering with paperwork. The judge is tampering with paperwork. They're doing everything they can to protect the prosecutor so he doesn't have to address my paperwork. And under Title 28, 2255, you can show where there is a constitutional or statutory violation. That judge has to dismiss the case. It's not an option. It's not a choice. We'll put it before. No. the moment the evidence goes in, he is to stop that trial. It is not supposed to go on because, well, I'm neutral here. If you're neutral, then you quit tampering with the paperwork. That's a crime. And this is what we're pushing. Yeah. Well, Rod, are you suing them? I'm suing them in the paperwork. We are exposing this in the paperwork. We have brought a counterclaim that has not been addressed, has not been answered, has not been filed. They don't know what to do with this stuff. I do. Dismiss. Give me my stuff, reprimand them, expunge my record, and walk away and leave me alone. Because if they don't, I'm going to push it. And we're going to push hard. And that's what we're doing on this show. This is why we're going. A couple of you guys, if quit arguing back and forth here on the screen. If you guys are having issues on what's being said, everybody's got an opinion, but you're not in here to voice your opinion. Right now you're here to get information. You're here to sit down and let's start putting the pressure on the system. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if some of the stuff that we're hearing that is possibly coming down in this country, we got bigger fish to fry than what's sitting on this board. We got a lot bigger fish to fry than what's sitting on this board. And as long as we keep arguing among ourselves and we keep fighting among ourselves, that's exactly what they want. They want us to be bickering among ourselves because this is how they got away with so much stuff. Obama supposedly just passed an executive order to outlaw and ban AK-47s in this country. First off, he doesn't have the authority. If he is making an executive order, it only applies to the executive branch. So what this means is that now the police officers have to be disarmed.
You're kidding.
Nope. They can't sit down and create laws. These executive orders, ladies and gentlemen, do not apply to the people. An executive order, number one, there's no place in the Constitution that allows him to create law as the president. Any executive order is an administrative issue. Think about it. It's administrative. Any executive order is a memo to the administration. So if he is banning AK-47s or he is banning any type of assault weapon and he is going to the UN to ban handguns, that means that every one of these police officers, sheriffs, marshals, Homeland Security, all these people have to be stripped of any type of weaponry, as if he wants to call it. They have to be stripped. They cannot strip the American people. This is what this DC case is all about that I'm fighting in DC, ladies and gentlemen. It is about your Second Amendment right. They cannot tell you and I that we cannot have. They can only strip their own people. Executive order only applies to the administrative office. Think about it. When he created the health care, it is not for you and I. That health care goes to the administration.
Are they that stupid that they think that we're going to buy it?
Well, majority of people on here are.
I know. Well,
this is what is so disheartening out here, people, is that we buy anything that they put out as legitimate. We'll sit here and talk on one side, say, well, we know the newspaper's propaganda, we know that the news is propaganda, but the moment they put this stuff out, oh my God, it's got to be the truth. It's like we sit down saying, we don't have a government. We've got a corporation. We've got impersonators. We have walked you people through the congressional records from the Reconstruction Act of 1867, through the 14th Amendment of 1868, through the DC Act of 1871, through the International Organization Act of 1945. We've sit there and showed you we don't have a government. We have never had a government. We've walked you through the congressional records. So if he wants to create executive orders, these executive orders only apply to the administration. This is what this an Industrial Recovery Act was about in 1945, and the Federal Register. It was all about creating the USC codes into administrative laws for the administration. It was never designed for you and I. It was only designed to them. This is what we're trying to get ahead of, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we're trying to get you people to understand. This is why we need to start bringing massive lawsuits against these people. They're not who they say they are. They don't represent us. This is why I started this thing a long time ago, because I've talked to too many people out here. They had good information, but they could not back and support anything that they sit here and said. It was always, well, I got it off of so-and-so, or I got it from somebody. This is why we are breaking down the black ink on white paper. This is why we're going to the Library of Congress. This is why we're pulling the statutes at large, and we're laying this stuff out for you to be able to see it. And once you see it with your own eyes, if you can't believe your own eyes, I don't know what you're going to believe. This is why I'm saying it's getting harder and harder for me to sit down when you got a set of blue lights coming in behind you. I really want to sit down and be nice to these guys. It's even harder to want to be nice to them in a courtroom. This is why we need to start bringing claims against them. This is why I'm hoping this international level will work. Because if we can get this on the international side, if we can get this side of it, well, we can start bringing charges against them. It isn't going to be very hard to bring a charge against these judges and prosecutors and lawyers, because the moment they try and we bring a claim and they want to do the Fifth Amendment, what is the Fifth Amendment, ladies and gentlemen? What does the Fifth Amendment say? It doesn't say one thing about being a witness against yourself. It does not say that. The Fifth Amendment gets in and makes this issue of self-incrimination. Self-incriminating. And the moment they sit here and say, I plead the Fifth, are you sitting here saying you're pleading the Fifth because you are not going to incriminate yourself because you know the charges are true? Well, if you don't want to sit down and say it, then we will take it that you are being have admitted to the crime because you don't want self-incrimination. Thank you very much. I will accept that on your side of the fence. Take them out. They can't even tell you the jurisdiction of the court. We're hoping that we can get this up. It isn't going to take but one hearing on a federal judge or a county judge, any judge. It's only going to take one hearing and get an administrative conviction. Why am I saying administrative? Because that's the civil side of this thing. Because once you do an administrative civil action to prove a crime, then the international side can bring criminal charges against them once we prove an administrative civil crime of misconduct. It isn't going to be that hard to do a civil charge against these people. If we had the court system, on our side, we had an international court that will work with us. It isn't going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard for us to turn around and start busting them. It's going to be that hard at all. The problem of it is, we have had so much with Restore America, county assemblies, and I'm not knocking the grand jury, but the grand jury people, because even though their intentions are honorable and their intentions was to fix the problem, I keep saying our issue is we don't have enforcement. This is one of the things that I talked about with some of the international people on this. We don't need grand juries. We got them. We don't need private attorney generals, prosecutors. We have enough. We need a court. We need a judge where we can bring in a tribunal like they did in Nuremberg, where we can bring it in and show enough errors that would warrant an administrative investigation, remove these people from office, pending a full investigation of criminal activity on their side of the fence. And this means we're going to have to go back through all their court files and find out how many court cases did they have, and how many court cases did they actually have a plaintiff in that courtroom of a real injured party in that courtroom. And you know what? We're going to find 100% of the time there was never a plaintiff in that courtroom, and that judge knew it. We're going to be able to go back and prove that people were charged under the statutes under the wrong definitions and terminologies of words, because they brought the word person, knowing that that person was a corporation and an association, a partnership, a trust, an estate. It's not flesh and blood, and they prosecuted flesh and blood in place of. It isn't going to be very hard to get a conviction on these people. It's not going to be very hard to come back in and pull the public defender's office in and these lawyers in of sitting down saying, now, your client, did you give him the best representation? Did you expose? What do you think is going to happen? We don't need grand juries. We already got them. We need a system where we can do accountability. What we need is more private attorney generals. We need more people stepping up to the plate on what we're doing, getting their practice in of prosecuting these people. We need people who can, when it comes time, can start running across this country and start prosecuting them. But right now, if we can get one court, one hearing, get one conviction on their side of the fence where they're pulled off. But remember something on the private attorney general side. It isn't just about the money. It's about exposing, and it's also about paying off the public debt, because 2/3 when these people are taken out of office, 2/3 of everything they own. And if they put it in somebody else's name, then that person is held liable because they aided in abetting in corruption. So they lose what they have, but 2/3 of this goes to pay off the public debt. But Rod, there ain't no public debt. It's all fake. That may be. But if we pay it towards the public debt and there is no debt, then that means 100%, 2/3 of this comes back out to the people, and then 1/3 goes to the prosecutor, the PAG, for finder's fee. And it's one of the things that we're talked about here last Friday, and I didn't really mention it too much, but I brought it up. On the bounty hunter side of this thing, if I had the backing right now, today, and I had the enforcement on my side, being a constitutional bounty hunter, Congress, I do not need a complaint under Rule 3 and 4 of Criminal Rule Procedure or under Civil Rule Procedure. I don't need a complaint, I don't need an affidavit, and I don't need a warrant. Well, why is that, Rod? Because you're the one that's sitting back and saying, if the police officer does this, he has to have a complaint. He has to have a sworn oath, and he has to have a warrant. You're absolutely right. What makes it different with a bounty hunter? Stop and think, people. A bail bondsman does what? Harvey?
Puts up money so you can get out of jail while you're awaiting trial.
So he puts up a bond, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What happens when you skip out on that bond or you break that bond?
They come looking for you.
And who looks for you?
A bounty hunter.
That's exactly right. Every one of these judges and lawyers took out a what when they took their oath to that job?
A bond.
That's exactly right. We got them on bond violation. I don't need a complaint, and I don't need an affidavit, and I don't need a warrant for a bond violation.
So you can arrest them.
Yes, I can. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the difference. This is one of the reasons why they fear me, because if I could ever get the support, if I ever could get the backing, I do not need a complaint. I don't need a sworn testimony. I don't need a warrant. All I got to do is go snag them, tag them, and bag them, and bring them before an administrative tribunal and try them. This is what I'm sitting on, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's go back in to the questions that we asked at the beginning of this show. What's it take to be a PAG? Somebody who's got backbone. Someone who's willing to go head-to-head with these people. PAG and a bounty hunter is just not a nice little title to hang up on the wall. Well, I am. This is what I have. I've seen too many people in this movement try to grab as many titles as they could possibly have, but when it comes right down to it, they couldn't back one of the titles. We just want the prestige of claiming that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, I pretty much figure I have pretty much showed what I'm made of and the backbone I have to go after these people. That's what it's going to take, ladies and gentlemen. This is why, if I could ever get the enforcement and get the backing, there isn't a courtroom or a public office that I could not walk into and snag them and walk them out because they breached their bond to that office. They violated that bond to that office. This is right now, guess 120, you're right. This is one reason why right now we're just filing paperwork in. If I tried to do this on my own, by myself, I would be shot. But if I had the backing and I had the enforcement, ladies and gentlemen, it can be done. It only take one time. I know when I was in Cincinnati, these people were scared to death. But I walked into that Cincinnati federal court with my people up there in Cincinnati. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the power that all of us are sitting on, not just me. I only took it a step further. I actually went to the Judiciary Committee and I actually filed for the position. I actually have the stamps. You people already have that position if you knew how to use it. It was given to all of us. I just went and got the stamps for it. I just went and got the congressional certification for it. Because I wanted the extra steps. So when I walked in, I had the credentials. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is about you guys getting involved. Of someone who does not have a law degree, someone who has a mechanical background in mechanics, welding, carpentry, medicine, has been able to come up through the ranks and done what I've done, and now basically have pulled a law degree of being self-taught, of being able to do what we're doing. I still wish I could write the way I talk. I got Harvey for that. But ladies and gentlemen, it's going to take us to fix this thing. It's going to take us to go do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've been here for 2 hours, a little better than 2 hours. I want to thank you for being in here tonight. But remember, we've got that judicial conference next weekend. If you could make it, it would be worthwhile. It would be worthwhile because with what we're going to get into, what we're going to explain, what we're going to lay out, ladies and gentlemen, it's to your benefit. Some people need show and tell, and that's what we're going to have, show and tell. We're going to have a screen, 8-foot screen, got a projector, going to have a computer, we're going to lay it up, we're going to walk you through it. I figure Saturday, Carl and Dwight, my brother, is going to do Saturday, and I will pretty much do Sunday. We're going to have a get-together Friday night. The way it sounds, we're going to have live broadcast. By possibility, from 8 to 10, we're going to be on Google Hangout. And I think maybe from 11 to 12, it may be simulcast altogether between Google Hangout and BBS. But we're going to be broadcasting, at least Friday night, but the other nights are going to be recording. I realize things are tough, money's tight, and I definitely understand that. But the education level that's going to come out of this is something that's going to be very beneficial to your side defense. I want to thank you, and you guys have a good night.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks, everyone.